Hey guys, it's the Tech Prepper. Hope you're all doing well. So I'm out here in Wing Mountain again. I was doing a mock field training exercise to put Reticulum and some other comps work through its paces. This is not going to be anything other than another tour and hopefully some food for thought. So a couple things on the Reticulum setup here. Number one, I took my normal camera tripod, and the Heltec solar node that was not working at the house actually has worked beautifully. I've got the Heltec version 4 in here. I'm using the 1/4-20 threads to mount to the tripod here. It's canted at the perfect angle, and this has been deployed now for the last 2.5 days, and I believe we're about the 75% mark, and there are 4 18650 cells. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use that one because in Arizona heat, where I am at lower elevation, those things will have a battery runoff issue and probably catch fire. Portable setup is basically the gear you see on the channel, but what I wanted to show you is underneath our tarp shelter. Little guy is comfortable here. And this is our mobile Reticulum setup. So my friend Brian, he also goes by My Brian, he loaned me this rig here, and unfortunately they don't make it anymore. And it's a 615 watt panel, and you can see we're at 44%. And the role of just this little guy here was to run the travel router that we've talked about. I'll put a link down below. But then also using the 15 volt DC trigger cable. It's also running our transport node. We've been running all kinds of tests here. So you can see we've got the guys out here on the lora node side. So we see the field notebook. We had a buddy come in with his cell phone running Columba. And then we have my buddy Lumen. That's a code name there. And we also have it connected to the Anytone 578 man pack here. We also did some benchtop testing with HF into dummy loads, and that was with the 300 baud modem, and actually that did work. It was a little tricky, and the big thing that we have to do now, because we did have some fails, I have to better understand how quickly we can expect a node to be able to be seen by a multi-transport device like this. Again, we have local Wi-Fi with no internet right now, UHF radio or HF on the dummy load we are testing, and then we've got the lower device that's over there. We were having some issues in how long it would take for like one of the other systems to see what was going on. The other reason why I love these exercises is that, yeah, we can decompress, but it's also an opportunity for me to pull out the notebook here and also really try to improve on the capabilities in terms of the software. So on the Reticulum front, I am running MCOM Tools R7, Build 5, Build 6, and we did have to set up these devices for a couple of the guys in the group. It's the Heltec V4 kit. This is our new standard, and we had to flash this with the R node firmware. So one of the changes I'm going to do, I'm going to ask Mark if it's okay. I want to embed the small firmware directly in the operating system ISO, so we don't even have to connect online when we have to flash it. So that was a field learning experience. I also want to do a post on the Heltec firmware how-to. That'll be available on my NomadNet page, as well as the bulletin board system. And then we had some issues with the brightness. And then I had some notes to myself about picking up a Rockpals 614 watt power station, but they're gone. And then I've got some other notes here for ET LoRa. Anyways, guys, so it was just a great opportunity. So I'm going to go home, take these lessons learned, rev the next version of the software. Let's take a look real quickly at the power consumption so you can see, and then we'll sign off here. So I'm using a command called RN status, and it will tell us the status of all the interfaces. But for the R node that is connected via this local Wi-Fi here, we can see that we have a state of charge of 73% and the CPU is at 47. So guys, we'll say hi to Scout. Enjoy the trip, buddy. We've got our buds. That's My Brian. That is My David. He goes by Lumen. But yeah, so I'm really trying to understand how we can take these networks, run them at the house, run them in the RV, run them for camping sites. And I gotta say, guys, the winner is that 600 watt battery. I do have one like my friend David, which is the Blue Eddy, but that thing weighs like 50 pounds. That little guy is perfect. So hit the thumbs up, share this video, and if you want, come over and buy me a coffee. I've got more stuff coming, and I've got one hell of a Arizona hopefully Arizona proof solar node build coming. I finally figured out what parts I need so I don't set my house on fire. Hit the thumbs up, guys. All right, I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that little tour. I don't do a whole lot of car camping, but the guys in my circle certainly do, and I thought it might be a fun opportunity, one, to decompress, but also to test out some of the Reticulum work that we're doing, as well as some other comms training we were doing up there for a different purpose. Now, I'm going to read some notes here, and the first thing I want to talk about is solar. So I'm trying to establish a solar node up on the roof. I'm out here in Arizona, and unfortunately what I bought will not work out here. And I started out with a Heltec version 4, and then I bought this solar enclosure also that's listed on the Heltec site. It's got the external antennas. And the problem with this one is that it uses LiPo batteries, which have a thermal runaway, and I don't want to have a fire hazard. But the good news is I was able to take the same gear and take it with me. We went up to Flagstaff, which is a lot cooler. The lows were 50 degrees Fahrenheit and the high was about 80. This thing performed absolutely amazing. There's a few things I don't know for running long-term outside. It does not have waterproof connectors. It uses SMA instead of Type N. And then I'm not sure how well this will actually seal moisture. It does have a gasket. But my unit, I did outfit it with 4 LiPo batteries. In fact, I took the LiPo batteries from my TX500 MP, or at least my extra set. And it did very well. Even in partial shade with all of the tree cover, this thing was able to run a full 48 hours. Did get solar during the day, and we only got to a depleted state of charge of about 73%. So it pretty much ran indefinitely, and I was able to use my camera tripod. For the house, I have a very different system that I'm building, so there will be a future video still waiting on all of those parts to arrive. Also on power, my buddy Brian let me borrow his Rockpal 600 watt hour battery station or power station, and that ran the tablet as well as the travel router, and then also allowed us to recharge a few power banks and also small phones. So it ran the entire weekend as well. So that's something I want to continue doing. In fact, I decided to pick up something for myself now that it's Amazon Prime Deal Day. I've had experience with Blue Eddy. Don't want the large one that I have. So I actually went with the Elite 100 V2, which is a 1024 watt hour battery. It's got the USB chargers on it. So that's going to be coming later, but I think the more that I do car camping, I'm going to use that power station as the system that really drives and powers my 24/7 portable Reticulum transport node. Now, we also had a couple of other guys that were more familiar with the mesh networking thing. So my friend Proto, he had the Lily T-Deck, which is a standalone device, and he was running one of the new firmwares from RatSpeak. And he was able to interoperate with our network using the RatSpeak firmware beautifully. And again, the nice thing about that was that he did not have to connect that to a phone or a computer. It was a full standalone device, similar to the BlackBerry days. Now, my friend Robert also came out to visit us. He used to do my gear picks from curated.com, and he was in town, so he drove up. And he took his Heltec V4 and his phone. He was running Columba on Android, and he had the same problem that I did, where we're unable to figure out how to get that thing to pair with our phones on Android or Graphene OS. So he tethered to USB, just how I'm doing it, and he was also able to interoperate with our network. The other 2 guys, including myself, were running the Panasonic FZM1 tablets and the Heltec V4. Again, this is the standard you're going to see on the channel. And I gave everybody a printed field card, which just showed the basic operations. And one thing that came out of that is that I am going to update the back of the field card, and I'm going to put all of the instructions for completely flashing the device. I just had the first command, but there's some areas within the firmware flashing steps that can get people. So I'm going to add about 5 more lines to this. So this will be available as a version 2 to the Buy Me a Coffee members. But we were able to get everybody on there. The other thing that we did is we tested on a dummy load. We did remote benchtop field testing. We took our twin TX500 MPs. Ours are the early version from the first run, so ours are completely unlocked across the entire HF spectrum. So we did put it on the ISM band on 6.789 megahertz, and we did use the dummy loads in close proximity, and then we started up a modem on 300 baud. I'm going to be experimenting with other modems, and we found that to be hit and miss in terms of the ability to have a consistent transmission and then decode on the other side, but it did work. We did do it bidirectional a few times. So HF does work. Again, outside of the legal concerns here, we did do our best to do the testing with proper dummy loads. Oh, we also did put through its paces my turnkey platform that I'm still working on, MCOM Tools Release 7, and we did do an install fest and got everybody on, I think it was build 5 or build 6. And for the most part, everything plugged in correctly. We did find a couple of issues. I don't have it here with me, but I already have plug-and-play support for a whole bunch of radios on the amateur radio side, and there were still collisions with the chipset on the DigiRig Mobile, as well as the Heltec V3 and V4, so I'm taking that as a lesson learned. The other thing we found was that one of the guys did not have his R-Node firmware installed on his Heltec V4. And while we did have Starlink, we did not really want to use it. It turns out we did have to go and pull down that firmware from the internet using the installer. So one thing that I'm taking as a lesson learned is I will be packaging the supported firmware on the operating system ISO, so that if there is no internet connection and you do have a new LoRa device, you can absolutely flash it with the bits that are on your computer or on that ISO image. A few other things I did too. I decided finally to do a upgrade of Reticulum on MCOM Tools. So right now I am running Reticulum version 1.35. Again, I'm running that completely separate. And then there were a few usability issues that I had personally with Mesh Chat, and yes, I know it's not maintained. I recommend that probably everybody else but me and my group go to Mesh Chat X. For me, that is too new. And I spent some time yesterday and I forked Mesh Chat and I made some very minor modifications. Number one, I upgraded the version of Reticulum that it uses to version 1.3.5. And I also added a small fix for the NomadNet pages. So for example, here you can see how tiny the screen here is for, or the available viewing area is for viewing a NomadNet page. The change that I made was I wanted to be able to see it full screen. So all I did was add the ability with a new icon there to go full screen and take over that sidebar. Again, I don't want to go crazy. My particular use for Nomad or for Reticulum is to really just do low bandwidth text messaging, low bandwidth file transfers, and low bandwidth connections into things like NomadNet pages. I'm going to treat this like the internet of the early to mid 90s. And I know that's not for everybody, but that's what I want to do. I don't want to get myself used to using Reticulum over high-speed internet links and get myself in a situation where the internet goes down and now the mediums that are available to us are constrained by bandwidth. So I'm starting out the gate and everything I'm going to be doing is going to be under the assumption of high latency and very low bandwidth. I did have a couple of other devices that I should have talked about earlier. I bought 2 data loggers a few weeks back to do my temperature testing on the solar node. And when it was 100 degrees outside, I had one inside of the enclosure. In fact, I had to remove the batteries to make it fit in here. So it's not a great test, but I was curious to see just inside the case how it would work. And then I had one hanging outside. So the metrics were as follows. When it was 100 degrees, ambient temperature outside, the one that was hanging outside actually got to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, but the one that was inside the compartment got to 110. So there was a differential of 10 degrees and 20 degrees. I'm going to do more of these tests when I go to build out that solar node. And I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything here. Oh, yeah, the last other The last thing that we did that was kind of nice is the blueprint configuration we talked about in the last video. That worked beautifully, and we were able to run the transport node out there. So the system itself, the actual infrastructure that was running connected to the battery system and talking to the remote R node over Wi-Fi, all worked great. So really quite cool. So guys, the next one, hopefully I'll be able to do a solar video. If not, I might do a freestyle video. It's been a while since I've gone out. So if you guys haven't, if you're new, I may be taking out like the TX500 MP and going into the field and doing some just general HF work. All right, guys, I'm the Tech Prepper. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.